I love Spider-Man, damn it. He's my hero. He'll always be my hero. Maybe me saying that makes me come across like a child. I don't care. I love Spider-Man. He's been one of the only steady things in my life since I was 4 years old. He's the best. And his movies, more often than not, though there are a few stinkers, are pretty good. And like a true fanboy, I have a soft spot for every live-action version of the Wall Crawler. Hell, I even saw the Broadway show, and you know what? Reeve Carney did a pretty darn good job. Way to go, Reeve. See how the boy falls from the sky. But this video essay is limited only to the 3 actors who have portrayed the character in live action on film. Like I said, I have love for every version of this character. So if you're expecting me to bash one version and praise the others, that's not going to happen. All of them get something perfectly right. All of them bring something new and different to the table. And before I spoil the fun and answer the question, who is the best Spider-Man, let's talk about each one individually. How well did each one portray Peter Parker, and how well did each one portray his superhero alter ego? I'll start with the OG Tobey Maguire. To me, Tobey Maguire is, and will probably always be, the definitive version of Peter Parker. I know it's a matter of personal taste, but I like my Peter Parkers to have a little bit of patheticness to them. Still a good kid with a big heart and a lot of brains, just painfully shy and awkward. I think Maguire captures this perfectly. One thing I appreciated about him is that while he physically experiences change following the spider bite, his issues socially don't. He remains the same nerdy kid that he was before the bite. As Spider-Man, he's fine. He doesn't capture the quippy nature of the character, but that's not really his fault as much as it's the fault of the screenwriters. This version of Peter didn't get his powers until late in high school when he was almost an adult, so I guess it kind of makes sense why he wouldn't have the witty, fast-paced, and kind of freaking annoying quips that the character is known for in the comics. It's not something that bothers me really, but it is a gripe in terms of faithfulness to the character. Overall, I think he knocked it out of the park. He just plays it so earnestly. Also, this series perfectly captures Uncle Ben and his importance to Peter. You never lose sight of the fact that everything Peter is doing, he is doing as a way of paying tribute to the lessons Uncle Ben taught him. Andrew Garfield's portrayal is controversial, and I understand why. I'm not going to say whether or not he's my favorite, but he's the most fascinating to me. I want to get it out of the way up front, and maybe this is a hot take even though it shouldn't be, but Andrew Garfield is the best actor to play this role. Maguire and Holland are great performers, but Garfield is a powerhouse actor. Go watch The Social Network. Go watch Hacksaw Ridge or 99 Homes. This dude is an elite actor. The issue that he, and really the entire series, ran into was that they decided to retell the origin again. The fumbling of an origin story that the Raimi series nailed so perfectly isn't Andrew Garfield's fault, but it starts the entire series off on the wrong foot. The other big problem, and again, it's really not his fault, is that I don't buy this character as a bullied high school nerd. This guy is a nerd. That dude gets shoved into lockers. This guy is a nerd as well. Maybe not a gets beat up by members of the football team nerd, but a gets picked on by other members of the scientific decathlon team nerd. This dude here, this Edward Cullen looking mofo, is the guy who would steal your girl in high school if he wasn't 27. Also, and I promise I am going to get to the praise here in a second, this version of high school Peter, he ain't that likable. And I get what they were going for. They were going for more of an edgy version of Peter. What would this character be like if he were real? The problem with that is that it shows a fundamental lack of understanding in the character. Peter Parker isn't exactly your everyday teenager. Peter Parker is likable. He does choose to be good, no matter how many times he's knocked down. But despite all the setbacks, Andrew Garfield, just in terms of performance, is great. He saves this movie from really going downhill, and his chemistry with Emma Stone is fantastic. Unlike Maguire, who I think kind of phoned in his performance in Spider-Man 3, Garfield's version actually grew on me as it went along. Everyone loves to trash The Amazing Spider-Man 2, probably because it's not a good movie. But his performance in that is, like, amazing. The ridiculous suspension of disbelief that this guy who could play my dad is actually 17 is gone because he's out of high school. I guess technically the character is still a teenager, but they don't really draw attention to it, so it doesn't really matter. And like I said, the emotional moments in both his films, the moments that have to work really well because Andrew Garfield is an amazing actor. And while I've criticized his Peter Parker, his Spider-Man is dope. I mean, for one, the effects are awesome. But the way he talks and moves and poses, it is so definitively Spider-Man. His issue, and Alex Hunter over at High Top Films, who's made several really great Spider-Man videos, talked about, is that he's the middle child. In the first movie, he's living in Maguire's shadow, and in the second, he's surrounded by a complete mess of a movie. But he is phenomenal. I know it's not technically part of the movie, but go search out the alternate ending for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. You would swear this guy is giving like an Oscar-caliber performance. There's an alternate Spider-Verse out there where he would be viewed as the definitive version of the character. You can thank Sony for ruining that. Then we have Tom Holland, Disney's Peter Parker. The word that comes to mind is balance. He balances the nerdy high school Peter Parker with the quippy, always having fun Spider-Man. His chemistry with the other actors is great. He's legitimately funny, and in the emotional moments, you really do feel for him. The one issue I have with his portrayal is that he plays it a little too, how do I say this, ADD-ish? Like, he's obviously very smart, but he also has a tendency to be a bit spastic. Obviously, he's still just a kid, so I'm willing to overlook it for now, though I would have liked to have seen him mature a bit more in Far From Home. The biggest difference between Holland and the other two is that Holland's legacy isn't complete yet. He's still very young, and he's gonna be Spider-Man for a long time. I think he's the best version of high school Peter Parker, and I'm ready for this character to mature. I don't believe in the notion that Spider-Man is a high school superhero. In fact, some of his most interesting arcs take place when he's an adult. As underwhelming as the Garfield films were, I feel like he was actually in great position to be a tremendous adult version of Spider-Man. I think Holland will grow into that. I know a lot of people dump on the idea that he's Iron Boy Jr. or that he's destined to be the next Iron Man, and while Far From Home has some serious problems, one of the messages of that movie is that he can't be the next Iron Man. There's only one of those. He is still Spider-Man, a boy who is being forced to grow up at a faster pace than everyone else. Whether you like the tone or not, this Peter has already experienced so much loss and so much tragedy in his life, and he's technically still in high school. So I've evaluated all three. But who is the best Spider-Man? Well, just give me a second and I'll tell you. I'll always be partial to the Maguire version. I think Spider-Man and Batman are like James Bonds. Your favorite is the one you grew up on. I grew up on Tobey, and also Spider-Man 1 and 2 are the best Spider-Man movies. Sorry, but Spider-Man 2002 is one of the most perfectly paced Hollywood blockbusters of all time, and Spider-Man 2 is just flat out one of the best movies ever. Hell, until recently I even thought I liked Spider-Man 3. Now, I very much do not. But there is a clear nostalgia element to them. Also, I was in high school when the Garfield version came out. I played the video games and watched the movies, and as someone who had a massive crush on Emma Stone, I found my angsty self living vicariously through Garfield and very much enjoying it. So I even have a soft spot for that too. But gun to my head, taking nostalgia out of it, the one that I think comes closest to capturing the character perfectly is probably Holland. Like I said, his legacy is incomplete, but that's not his fault. Am I the biggest fan of the tone of those films? Not exactly, though I did really love Spider-Man Homecoming. I just think in terms of balancing the burden that comes with being Peter Parker and the freedom that comes with being Spider-Man, I just think he gets it. And I think he'll grow into the character as well. Maguire is my favorite Peter, and Garfield is a perfect Spidey, but Holland captures the best elements of both. I'd say he's the best. What do you think? How would you rank the Spider-Man? What's your favorite Spider-Man movie? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and spread the word. I will see you later.